Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to draft an underbust corset. So let's get started, guys. From the top of my pattern here, I'll be using this little pattern because I don't need much pattern for this underbust corset. From the top of my pattern, we measure my armhole divided by 2, which is 7, so it will serve as my chest line. Remember to divide the armhole by 2 to get your chest line. So after marking my chest line, I'll mark my bust point, underbust, half length. This 18 will serve as my half length. Right now I'll use my ruler to connect all these dots in a straight line. Then I'll go ahead to label my pattern. This is my chest line, bust point, underbust, half length. Hope you understand what I'm doing. So right now, from my bust point, I'll be taking in my dart measurement. My nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 4. I'll be marking it down to meet my half length. Then I'll connect it with a straight line, just the way I'm doing. Then I'll come over to my underbust and mark half an inch. Then to my half length, the same thing, I'll mark half an inch. Then I'll connect this half an inch from my bust point to my underbust, then to my half length. Hope you understand what I'm saying. Just look at what I'm doing. I'm sure you understand. So guys, after this, I'll take my bust measurement divided by 4. Your bust divided by 4, mark it down. Mine is 9, and then I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance. After this, I'll come over to my waist, to my half length here. I'll measure my waist divided by 4, check my dart, which is 1 inch. I'll mark it down here, 1 inch plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Then I will use my ruler to connect this dot to form my curve. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So right now guys, I'll come over to my bust point here. You can see where I place my tape rule. I'll come in by 1 inch. Then I'll check the distance between my bust point and underbust, which is 3. I'll put, you can see what I just did right now. From the 1 inch here, I'll be checking what I have there, which is 3 inches. Then I'll also mark 3 inches here. Hope you understand what I'm saying. Please look at what I'm doing very well. I'll use my ruler to connect this curve like this, meeting my underbust. You need to pay attention here, and I'll also repeat the same thing here. You can see my curve and see what it looks like. So I'll use my red marker to extend my dart line so you can see it properly. And this part I'm cancelling, I won't be needing it because I'll be cutting it out. I'll use my ruler to extend this line here so you know the parts I'll be needing. This part I'm marking with my marker here. This is the part I'll be needing for this tutorial, and all these parts I'm shading, I won't be needing them. So I'll go ahead and cut it out. Please look at the way I'm cutting it and cut yours the same way. After cutting, this is what I have here. I'll be gluing my 2 patterns this way. I'll bring in another paper to glue these patterns together because I don't want it to be on pieces. I want it to be just one piece. I don't want to be joining, so I use my glue to glue it so I can have one piece here. Hope you understand what I'm saying. Please look at what I'm doing. Then I'll go ahead to trace this out and cut out the parts I need. Cut yours the same way. If you want to do yours just like this, you can go ahead and do it. But if you don't want to do yours this way, you can just go ahead and cut it in pieces, then stitch it back. After cutting, this is what my pattern is looking like. Let's go over to the back. So the back is very simple. I'll bring in another paper, then I'll take this one here. That's what I just did. I'll be tracing it out. You need to pay attention here so you can understand what I'm doing. No need to draft out your basic body again. Just trace it out like this because all the measurements are already here. There is no dart here, so just trace it out. That's what I'm doing. Then I'm trying to make sure that my paper, my back paper is equal with my front paper here. So make sure your back paper is equal with your front paper. Then just look at what I'm doing. Do yours the same way. After making sure my papers are equal, this is what I have here. So I'll go ahead to rule a straight line here. You can see what I just did. Then from this straight line here, I'll be coming in by half an inch. You can see what I'm doing. This is how open I want my loop to be. So if you want the loop to be open by 2 inches, go ahead and mark 2 inches, 1 inch, or if you want a zipper, you can just go and add zipper allowance. So right now I'll come over to the top here. Then I'll come down by half an inch. This is how low I want my back to be. If you want your back to be lower than this, you can go ahead and make it. It depends on what you want. And I'll use my curve ruler to mark this place in a curve. I hope you understand what I'm doing. I'll use my marker here to make this line visible enough for you to see properly. You can see what my pattern looks like. This is it. This is my back. Then this place I'm putting my door. This is to show you that I'll be having a loop there. Then I'll go ahead to cut out. So watch what I'm doing and do yours the same. Now guys, this is what my pattern looks like. You can see it. This is my front and my back pattern. You can see what it looks like here. This is my back and this is my front. So guys, this is my pattern. I'll go ahead to cut it out of my fabric and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Right now guys, I've cut it out. Then I noticed that my pattern was too short, so I added 3 inches to my fabric while cutting it, then curve it out. So if you notice that yours is too short, you can just add few inches to it, then you cut it out with your own desired length. So right now, this is what my cup is looking like here. I added 0.5 inches on the top here before I was cutting it out. So this is it guys. You can see what I mean. I just want one piece. I don't want opening here. So I'll go ahead to bring in my bias. This is my bias tape. I'm using it to create my boning channel. Seeing it here in the middle of my corset. You can see what it looks like. I'll be placing it here in the middle. So go ahead and do yours the same way if you want to use a bias to make yours. But if you don't want to use a bias, you can just go and cut out exactly this fabric and use it to make your bias. Then I'll go ahead to do the same thing to the other side here. You can see what I'm doing. You can see the places I'm putting it. Then I'll pin it down and I'll slash it. So do yours the same way if you are using this method. Guys, this is what it looks like. I'll go ahead and run a stitch on this bias here. So let's work at the back. This is the back here. I'll be placing the back together. I also went ahead to add 3 inches extra to my back. So I'll be taking in, remember we took in 1 inch for the allowance. So I'll be taking in 1 inch here for the allowance. I'll be pinning it down. So any allowance you add to your underbust corset, make sure you take that allowance out. If you add 2 inches allowance, make sure you take your 2 inches allowance. You have to sew on that 2 inches allowance. If you add 1.5, you have to sew on that 1.5 allowance. If you add 1 inch, just where I added 1 inch, go ahead and sew on that 1 inch allowance. So right now, I'll also repeat the same thing here for this other side, just the way I did for the first bag that I just did. I will place it, you can see what I just did, and I'll put it on top of it, and I'll be marking out 1 inch sewing allowance here, just the way I did for the other side. Go ahead and do yours the same way. I'll go ahead to run a stitch all this place that I pinned down, the back and the bias part. I'll be running a stitch here. You can see this part I'm pointing. I'll go ahead and run a stitch and I'll come back and show you what it actually looks like. So guys, this is what it looks like after sitting down all my bias and the side. This is what it looks like after sewing the side down. You can see. So go ahead and sew yours this way. And at this part here, this at the end of this part, I'll be having my loop. I went ahead to add a boning channel here, a bias to use it for my boning. I'm adding a boning there. You can see also I went in by 1.5 inches at that point here. I left 1.5 inches extra before I added my bias. I left 1.5 inches allowance before I added my bias here. You can see what I have there. You can see what I'm showing you. This is 1.5 inches. You can go ahead and leave 1 inch, anyone you want. Just go ahead and leave it and then add your bias. So right now guys, it's time for me to add my lining. So make sure you sew your lining exactly the way you sew your corset, your underbust corset. This is my lining. You can see my lining is exactly the way I sewed my underbust corset. You can see what it looks like. As I'll go ahead into sewing this. This is it. I'll turn it around. You can see what I just look at the way I'm turning it. Make sure you do yours the same way. Front facing front. The front lining should be facing the front of the fabric. That's what I just did. Then go ahead and do yours the same way. I'll be pinning this part down after matching it. So guys, make sure you match it. match your actual fabric and your lining. You can see what I just did. Make sure they are equal. Then you start pinning down. You can see what I'm doing. Do yours the same. We need to pay attention here. Look what I'm doing very well. Do yours the same way. After doing the top, you also do the bottom part this way. So guys, I actually have excess here because I forgot to add in my darts. So I'll go ahead to my sewing machine to add in my darts here, just the way I added the darts at the fabric. So I'll be adding my darts here. So go ahead and do yours the same way. If you don't want to add a dart, you can just go ahead and cut off the excess if you don't want to have a dart. But I just want to add my dart here because I don't want to cut off that excess. Then I'll go ahead to continue pinning down, but this part here I'll be leaving this part open. I won't pin it down. Then I'll continue to pin the bottom part here. You can see what I'm doing. Please do yours the same way. Guys, I actually forgot to tell you, you need to add in your boning before you pin this bottom part down. Add in your boning, then you make sure you iron your boning. Please make sure you iron, because later I'm adding my boning. I did that off camera. So before you stitch this back, this downside, this bottom part, make sure you add in your boning. Then after you finish adding in your boning, you go ahead and stitch it down. You can see what I'm doing. Make sure you sew it. After sewing it, you go ahead and iron your boning. Make sure you iron your boning so your boning can lay flat and be straight. Make sure you iron it. And also close down this bottom part here. You need to close it down after putting your boning, and sew it just the way I'm pointing out. Sew yours the same way. Make sure you leave this part open. Do not sew it. Guys, I'll go over to my sewing machine to show you what it looks like. So this is it. I'm done stitching every part down. I also added my boning. Remember what I said? This is it. I also added my boning. Then I'm turning it out. You can see what this is the reason why I left this part open, so I can be able to turn it. When you add your boning, you will see that it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to turn it, but make sure you turn it very well. Because what I'm doing, do yours. Make sure you do yours the same way. Turn it out. Guys, when you are done, I'll bring in my boning. I need to pay attention here. Look at what I'm doing. I'll measure, use my boning to measure this part, this cup part here. I will measure it out. You can see the way I place my boning. I will measure it. Then I'll be cutting it out. You can see the place I'm holding down. I will cut it out. So I want you to look at what I'm doing here. So I'm going to be putting my boning inside because I want to fix it at this cup area. You can see what I'm doing. You need to pay attention. It's not that easy, but make sure you do what I'm doing here. So you can see what I just did. I just fixed the mouth at this part here. After fixing it here, you go ahead to do the same thing to the other side. Make sure your boning stops at the end here. You can see what I just did. Then you go ahead to use your pin to hold it down. Make sure you use your hand to press it out very well so it comes out, and use your pin to hold it. You need to look at what I'm doing very well here and do yours the same way. You need to pay attention here. So guys, after pushing it in and using your pin to hold it down, make sure you do the same thing to the two cups. You can see what my own is looking like. I did this same thing here for the two cup area, so make sure you do yours the same way. Guys, this is it. You can see what it looks like here. I'm just trying to arrange my corset. So right now you can see this part I'm pointing at that you pin down. This part I have my pins. I'll be sewing this part out in my sewing machine. So make sure it's not that easy, but make sure you just sew it and take your time to sew this part. So here I'm just going to be flipping this place inside like this. At this allowance here, I'll be taking half of what I have there. So measure half of what you have there, then you'll be folding it in. Hope you understand what I'm saying. Then after folding it in, put your loop inside of it. You need to stitch your loop here. This is why I'm folding this part in. After putting your loop inside, you go ahead and run a stitch on top of it. Go ahead and measure the distance for each of your loop. And right now, guys, this is it. I'll go ahead and sew this part and show what it looks like. So guys, this is it. I'm done stitching everything down. You can see my loop. Go ahead to lace it up. Guys, this is the end of this tutorial. If you find this tutorial helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, share, put on the notification bell so you get notified when I post a new video. Comment. See you in my next video. Bye.